What's up, everyone? How are we doing today? My name is Jamarcus, your host of Me, Myself, and Podcast. Tonight, I am super excited for our guest today. We have Pastor Gene Herndon in again. Guys, if you did not watch the first one, I need you to do me a favor. After this one, go back, watch that one, and then come back and watch this one so you can put them both together. The knowledge that he dropped and went over just on the first episode, it was life changing. I've already started applying some of the principles that we went over, and I'm already seeing changes. So catch up with us on our YouTube, Facebook. Take us with you. We're on Apple and Spotify under Me, Myself, and Podcast. We have some really great stuff coming up. As you guys know, when seeing the flyers, we have the morning of Thanksgiving, the worship experience that we're putting on Thanksgiving morning. You guys have seen the lineup. I have some heavy hitters coming in to help lead us in worship on that Thanksgiving morning. It's going to be a great time with a bunch of great people. So be sure to tune in. That's at 11:30 AZ time, that gets started. But without further ado, let's go ahead, bring in our Pastor Gene Herndon, and let's get this started. Pastor Gene, man, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How about you, brother?
Man, I am doing good. I'm still on 10 from our last interview. you know, we went over a lot of information in a very short amount of time. It was really only an hour, but the nuggets that we went over was pretty much stuff that could last lifetimes. And till this day, like I told you, me and my mom still talk about it. My brothers talked about it, and we've just started applying those small principles that we have went over. So I just want to thank you, for that first episode. I'm super excited about this next epised, and thank you
Amen.
for coming back. I think it's going to be really good.
Absolutely, brother. Thank God for the Holy Ghost helping us.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes, definitely. So, you know, last time we were talking about different business strategies. We were also going over how to implement some best practices with your business. Some of the stuff we went over was not to hire family members and how to fire your mama. We went over we went over all this and more. So we're just gonna pick up right back where we started. So let's go and start with the first question here. So Pastor Gene, as new business owners, what do you think is one of the biggest setbacks that you will go through in your first, let's say, your first 90 days of starting your business?
I think focus. I think focus is the new currency. Everything in the social media world is geared towards gaining your engagement, gaining your attention, and that's one of the things with our business masterclass. We teach how to really position yourself to control your focus because anything you are going a lot of people start well but they don't finish well. It's like when Peter stepped out of the boat. He had enough faith to get out the boat, but he didn't have enough faith to continue his journey. And
Yep.
I think when you're first starting anything, a lot of times people they begin to question. Not everything is an overnight success, and people have gotten used to seeing people go viral, and they assume that if they don't go viral from the beginning, that something is wrong. And the truth of the matter is, you're looking at a very small segment of the world that actually has massive success very, very quickly. And social media has geared us to almost be convinced that someone's highlight reel is really their life. When you look at social media, it's a highlight reel.
Mm-hmm.
It's a picture. They took 10 pictures and picked the best one to put on their Facebook page or on their Instagram. And really they're just doing it for the gram. I mean, that's really what it is. And so I think the biggest challenge that a new business owner has to face is remaining focused and knowing what you do and why you're doing it, and to be careful not to allow the outside influences to kind of morph what you're doing into something else because you saw someone else do it, or you heard someone say you should do this or you should consider that. It's that ability to be focused and not so much tunnel vision, because you got to be able to see the whole picture,
Yeah.
but to remain on target and on point and not allow yourself to drift.
And I think that's key there when you said that people see other people going viral and they compare that, to their business. I think especially with new business now, if you don't hit a certain amount of likes or a certain amount of views, they consider their business as being unsuccessful. Which we mean, that's untrue.
Yeah,
Half the people, honestly, half the people on your timeline, probably more than half, is not even your target audience. So the
that's right.
fact that you're looking for them to validate your business, if you have that mindset, I personally believe you're gonna have a hard time succeeding because you're looking for validation. You're looking that, my business is growing based on, just your small community of Facebook people. I only have what I think 500 Facebook friends. If I'm looking for validation for the 500, 300 probably are inactive. Another 100 I barely know. There's probably only about 10 to 15 people I see on a regular basis who actually I can engage with. So if I'm just focusing on that audience to validate my business, I feel like we would never succeed on that.
And out of that 15, 10 might be haters.
Yeah, literally, just and like, be like, why are you doing this? Like, why? Like, I can make
I
that
mean,
myself. Like,
yeah, and it's what it is, and there are plenty of people that I know that are Facebook famous and don't have two nickels to rub together.
come on, none,
They
none.
just, they're just fronting for the gram. They're fronting for Facebook, and so I think we have to be real careful because that's the world we live in has created a false life, if you will, and if you're not careful and you're not focused, you can really take that for that you have a bad idea or you have a fail or you're a failure when you're really not.
Not
You're
yeah.
establishing it. See, there's five stages to business, and the first one is when you're establishing. You have to prove your concept, and that's the hardest one because you can't go to scaling until you prove the concept. If the concept doesn't work in the beginning and you're not able to find what people want, I don't care how great of a business person you are, if you've got something that nobody wants, then there's no possibility to scale beyond the minimal things that you're able to do.
Yep.
And that first stage where you're establishing, it's the hardest. And then the second one, you start to go through this emerging where you start realizing, okay, here's what they want, here's how they want it, and you begin to tweak through some of these things to get something that now becomes scalable. And as you work through the different stages, I think sometimes what people do is they try to start. It's like driving a stick. If you've ever driven a stick, which I know a lot of people are like,
I've
what's
never
what's
driven a stick.
when you drive a stick, you learn how you have to start in first gear, then you go to second, and then you go to third. You have to go through the gears. Once you have become proficient at it, you learn how to sport shift, which means you can jump and start in second gear and you get a head start, if you will. Well, the problem is with business, you can't skip stages.
Yeah.
You can't skip steps. You have to be able to work your way through it to begin to position yourself to scale. And just because you're not viral on day one or day two does not mean you don't have a long-standing business.
Yeah, and I think if you, because one of my friends there are their business is creating ads for other business, and he was just kind of showing me the algorithm for it, and it's crazy. He was basically saying for every 10,000 views you get, you maybe get about 5 people who are actually interested, and they'll actually look into purchasing it, and only 2 will actually go forward with purchasing it.
That's
And,
right.
and I
That's
was
about
like, wow. Because you think like you're trying to base all these views and stuff off it. And I think because of this culture that a lot of business when they first start out, they're thinking they have to tag all the social media platforms. They got to do all this with media and all this stuff to get your brand out there. But it's like, well, maybe you should have like an interest meeting or a business party with other like-minded individuals to see what they did in the beginning that you can skip. You know, if they
Right.
did this and it failed, be like, okay, hey, how did you reach this? Don't give me, everything, but just, kind of guide me to the water so I can drink it. You ain't got to pour it in my throat, but guide me there so I can drink it, which I think a lot of
Absolutely.
business owners, if you take that approach, I think your success would skyrocket. Because instead
Absolutely.
of looking for the get rich quick scheme, bring me to the water and, put it in my mouth, it's like once you work for it, you find it way more valuable, especially
Absolutely.
with information. It's like if I read a book with all the information in it, I'm going to hold that more valuable than if someone just told me that. Because if you're telling me that, it's going to go one and out the other. But as I'm reading it, taking it in, digesting it, and applying it to my life, so you kind of have to in the beginning see what's most important to you, because all the work you're putting into your social media platform and stuff, are you putting that amount of work or more in your actual business, what you're selling, what you're doing? I take realtors for example. You may work on all this branding, like we said, on Facebook or social media, but a lot of people aren't in buying houses mode right now because they can't afford it, So
Right.
you
Right.
have to go reach the people, where they're at, and go to different classes, different seminars, and really find out how to get in contact with the audience that you want. Especially, some people, I know the realtors I know, they sell big money houses. And I know people on my timeline can't afford big money houses. So,
Right.
you're out of reach anyway.
Absolutely.
So you really have
Absolutely.
to know that.
And the biggest, if I could say, one of the biggest challenges that even the Christian business owners and CEOs that I've worked with is getting them to stop working, in the business and start working on the business. In other words, you can get so tied up in working in it that you forget about working on it. And the unique thing about Facebook and marketing through social media is I can now get into not just demographics, but I can get into psychographics. In other words, used to be that I would do a mailer and I could tell you the neighborhood and I could tell you the demographic. I could tell you who made over X amount of dollars, who lived in this particular block. Now you can get so deep into the psychographic of a person. What are their likes? What are they, as we teach to build an avatar, who is your client? And you got to understand them, because the truth of the matter is, if you want marketing and advertising, the secret to it is understanding who you're talking to.
Yep.
Because you, as a business owner, you got to sleep with your clients. And I don't mean
Literally,
literally,
yeah.
but you have to understand, what do they think about when they go to bed? And what do they think about when they wake up? And when you begin to understand those two things, truly understand them and take the time, because this is where a lot of entrepreneurs, they just won't take the time to understand who they're talking to. And then that's why when they put an ad out or they put marketing out, it doesn't work,
Yep.
because you're not speaking to my real issue. If you want my attention, you're going to have to speak to the real issue I'm struggling with. The one that I may not have told anybody, the one that I may not have told my husband, may not have told my wife, but it's what I'm thinking about when I go to bed. And it's what I'm thinking about when I wake up. And when you get that point where you're actually understanding who your client is, now I can market to psychographics,
Yeah.
not demographic, but the psychology of the person and the people that I'm trying to reach. Now you're going to get a response, like you said, where the algorithms are, you may have 10,000 views and you may get 5 people interested and 2 people buy. Well, now you're going to get 10 people interested and you're going to get X amount that are going to buy.
Yep.
And just making those small tweaks along the way in certain points. One of the things we do, for example, is we guarantee that a person can 3 times their income. We guarantee it, or we give people their money back, and we give them a $200 gift card just for showing up for a half a day. And we do that because when we teach them, it's not going to be big things. It's going to be the little things that you can do
Yep.
that bring multiplication and it'll take the business to the next level. And people seem to always be looking for the magic bullet. They're looking for a microwave, 2 minutes, 15 seconds. What can I
We
do?
done. Nah.
And it's not that way. It's a series of tweaks along the way that a lot of them don't cost any money. A lot of them just will take a little bit of time. And when you put those things together, you'll find that it'll start to catapult into the next level.
Yeah, and I like what you said. It's almost like you can get a digital census on people. I said on mailers. Now you can do it digitally, and and now you're getting more feedback for what you're actually trying to market. Because I would take 10 views with 7 clients any day over 1,000 views with one client.
That's
And
it.
I'm doing half the work, and you're because people pay a lot of money for these ads and stuff like that. But it's like, why not actually go to the people that you're seeking? If I'm doing graphic design or websites building, I'm going door to door to my next door businesses. Hey, do you have a website? Let's take a look at it. Let's see what we can improve. Because everybody doesn't want what you have, which I think is a mindset that a lot of people think. Everything because you got a business that everybody wants what you got. No, no, you don't. They don't. Like you created this for a certain individual. You don't know the individual yet, but when you find it, you're gonna know, like, this is why I do what I do because of this reason here.
And to your point, it can't just be I build websites because everybody says they build websites.
Yeah.
It's got I what I have to do is in a very short period of time, I have to be able to connect to what you really want. And a lot of times, like for example, with creatives become enamored with creating a good product.
Hmm.
A business owner doesn't care if the product is good.
Yeah.
They care if it produces a result. And so being able to connect, here's what I'm going to do for you, and here's the result I'm going to produce. The like you said, the understanding who your client is, it saves me from wasting my time talking to somebody who is not qualified.
Yep.
There's
Not
no point
qualified.
in pitching somebody who is not my client. And I'm not mad at you. I don't have a problem with you, but you're not my client. Because every time I have to deal with somebody and force them to try to become my client, it's going to cost me more time. It's going to cost me more aggravation.
Yep.
It's going to cost me more money. And then by the time they actually sign, I don't really want to do business with them because it just doesn't fit.
Yeah. And I'm spending all this time selling you something that you really don't want. And what I've learned in the earlier days of my creative business, like you said, I would offer people like, hey, we could do the websites here and there. And what I figured out is that not everyone needs a website. Some people need an app or a better way for their clients to order. Because some people think a website, they got like about us, a bio, all this. Some clients will be like, just give me somewhere where they can order straight straight to the point, because they
That's it.
realize I don't need them clicking around and getting lost with what they came here for. They came here to order from me, so let's make it easy. So that was an adjustment that I had to go through as a creative, because I'm thinking, I could do all this, but it's like, it's not benefiting their business. It's, making my portfolio look great, but they're not seeing results at the end of it. So once I switched that mindset, like, I need to see how this benefits them. You know, how can my product better sell their product in a way? That's really that's really what it is. For that. So I see once I changed that mindset, it was game changer. And the other thing I would say that changed it was receiving criticism and not taking offense to it.
Yes.
Because when
Yeah.
I first started my business and I received criticism, I think I started my first business when I was, I think, 20. Yeah, 20. I took it as, you're hating on me. Like, you want to
Right.
be
Right.
better than me.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think I lost probably about a year and a half of business, because I would think anytime someone's trying to criticize me or tell me to do something better, I took it as them hating on my business.
Right. And I think you have to filter criticism that comes from criticalness versus criticism that comes through feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Criticism or critical, you can always figure the source and tell who's critical and who is not. But if you don't have a feedback loop, a system built in that gives you feedback, then you already know it's going to be a problem,
Yep.
because you've got to have a system of feedback. You got to have a way to know, is what I am doing working?
Yeah. And because, it's almost a sense of pride thing, like, because it's my business, it's my product, I know what's best. Which and you turn it around, it's like, no, your clients know what's best for you because they're the one buying your product.
That's it.
And it's like, wow, once I realized, I'm like, dang, I lost out on a lot of money. You know, thinking
Yeah.
that people are thinking bad about me, but no, they're trying to help me succeed in it.
Did you know that Viagra started out as a cardiac medicine?
No.
They developed it to help with heart patients. And what they did was they gave it to a group of men, a group of women, and they monitored their heart activity. And what they began to realize is, in the men, there was a very strange reaction, a very interesting side effect
Yeah.
to the medicine. And then they realized, this is not a good cardiac medicine. This is a good men's for erectile
Yeah.
medicine,
Yeah.
and that's how Viagra came about. Without feedback,
You don't get it. And nothing comes. And you can turn your feedback. What I started turning my feedback in is to, like, on your business, like, frequently ask questions. That's what I turn my feedback into, because
yeah,
I figure a lot of people, when they're asking me questions or saying something like that, it's like, if you're asking me this, I can bypass this with the next client by already putting their answer in there. Then that's one
yes.
less thing they have to look for. So they know as soon as they come and talk to me, they know exactly what they're going to get from me and how to get it.
One of the things that I think people don't realize is, usually from a sales perspective, if you don't get the deal, it's usually the result of an ill prepared presentation. And if you know and can anticipate what people are going to say, you've got to address that elephant in the room from the very beginning. And if you can, like you said, frequently ask questions, if you can hit those objections and handle them properly from the beginning, you'll find that people spend an inordinate amount of time closing, and they think sales is like, I'm going to close you. They think a car salesman and that hard beat you upside the head. I have never been that type of person. My philosophy of sales has always been, if I serve you and I help you and I give you all the best information, you're going to make the right decision. And when you make the right decision, I'm only going to represent the right decision.
Yep.
So, what makes sales ethical for me is not the tactics or the methods. It's the fact that I'm not going to sell you anything I don't believe in. If I really don't believe it's going to resolve your problem, I'm not going to do anything with it.
Yep.
And so now all I got to do is give you the right information, the right pieces to the puzzle. And if I share it with you correctly, the close is the natural part of the sale. You should only spend 10 to 15% of your time closing. The rest of it should be understanding your client, diagnosing their real problems, and then presenting your solution to that problem if it actually fits.
Fits. Yeah.
And if it doesn't really fit, then that's where you look at them and say, I wish I could help you, but I really can't. And people value that honesty, and they'll send you other business
Yeah.
because you were straight up with them.
Because, and it's so funny. I think, probably our third car that me and my wife purchased. We met a salesman. His name was Jay. He was young, energetic. He was not your typical car salesman. As soon as we sat down and after he saw paperwork, he said, "This is what you can afford. If you want to put this much down, if you want to put this much down, this is what you can do." He said, I'm going to take you to the cars that you can afford. I'm not going to waste your time going with cars you can't afford, and I'm not going to oversell you. And from that point on, he already had our trust in the first 5 minutes of the conversation. And
Right.
what it turned down to was our next 3 cars, we literally followed him from dealership to dealership because I knew what I was going to get from him. And it's like, even with my business, and I think other people's business, my biggest growth has been word of mouth. It hasn't been the ad. It's really been word of mouth. When I say, hey, why'd you come here? It's like someone recommended me or recommended you. Which, as a business owner, it's a great feeling because that means someone believes in your product enough that you can help someone else achieve their goals.
Right. And word of mouth is the cheapest of acquisitions of clients. They statistically, it's proven they're the least expensive a client to acquire. They will spend the most amount of money with you. They complain the least, and they are more likely to stay with you longer term without putting you through a bunch of hoops because they came via word of mouth. And for example, a lot of people don't manage their feedback. Their Facebook reviews or their Google reviews. They don't manage that process well
Yeah.
because, believe it or not, that's just like word of mouth. And they don't pay attention to that or they ignore it, thinking, oh, well, that's just a griper and that's somebody. No, you have to address
Nope.
every bit of feedback you get publicly because statistically speaking, a person who reads a review from somebody they don't know, mind you, they read a review, they treat that review just as if it was a personal friend telling them what to do.
And I can attest to that. My wife, Virginia, will not go any new business without first looking at the reviews. And even buying stuff on Amazon, I'll show her something. She said, "Did you look at the reviews?" No. Well, go look at the reviews. She is as a review heavy person, and I'm like, well, give them the benefit of the doubt. She's like, no. She's like, if they, their reviews tell a lot about them, and so I'm like, okay, let's look at them. And what I think makes other business stands out from other is businesses who aren't afraid to send a response back to the negative feedback.
That's it. And
And
and and you, and hey, and what do
yeah,
you go looking for? You don't go looking for the good feedback.
nope,
You
I want the
skip over.
negative.
You want to find the first negatives, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, how did they respond to that?
Yep,
And if they responded correctly, you will give them a shot. But if
yep.
they ignore it or don't respond at all, you're like, yeah, I'm done with them.
Yeah, because to me, it's like I take it as you don't take pride in the product that you're selling.
That's
Just
it.
because a customer said something wrong, it could be no fault of your own. It could just be company policy that they're upset with. But the
Right.
fact that you didn't answer it as someone, who's just reading it, it seems like you don't care or what they said, actually has some weight to it. So,
There's three things when you mess up. There are three things that you should always do. Number one, run to the battle quickly. Number two, acknowledge, don't defend what happened, acknowledge that person's point of view. And then number three, chase their respect, whatever that looks like. In other words, if you have to offer them something, you apologize for it. I've seen people go into reviews and they'll start explaining why the person is wrong.
yeah,
You don't
I
have
don't
to do
I
that.
don't care about that.
Yeah, you don't have to do that
Tell
because
me
if
your
I'm
solutions. Tell me
there,
your
you go.
solutions.
Exactly. And maybe it, like you said, maybe it is policy. So I can't fix that problem, but I'll give you another thing that I'll throw a bone out there and say, but I'll do this to
Yep.
try to make it right. I'll go to that business every single time who's willing to try to do whatever's within their realm of
The
ability to make
vulnerability. Yeah,
it right.
because to me, it's like you value me, you respect my money, and you respect my time. For this, because I mean, there's been a couple times where we've messed up on a couple shirt orders, and my wife's like, "Okay, we're gonna give them back their money, but still reproduce their merchandise and still give it to them." And it's like, I'm like, we're losing money. But she's like, no, we're gaining their respect. Even though we're losing money, it's our fault, but we're gaining their respect. And they're going to, turn around and take it like, they messed up, but they made it right, but they didn't hold me accountable for their mistake.
That's it. That's it. And when you chase people's respect, you will always find that they, even if it's a bad experience, they will still send you business. They will still do business with you, and they'll just chalk it off as just a one-off situation. But when you won't run to the battle, when you try to defend your position, when you don't want to chase their respect, it's a loss. And you got to think, what did it cost you to get that business? How much effort did you have to put in to get it? How much did you have to spend in marketing to secure that client that you don't have to do all over again
Yep.
if you keep that client?
Yep. You keep it. And you may come out on the under and lose the money, but you're still, a customer still leaving satisfied with your product.
That's it.
At the end of the day, which then they'll turn around and come back and spend the money with you anyway. Because
That's
they
it.
know, you're not going to send out no raggedy stuff. You stand behind your product, and they go stand behind your product. So
That's
it's
it.
like, it's just I think in all, it's just a respect thing. It's like, you respect my time, my money, my efforts, and doing business with you. And another thing, for, I would just say for the African American community, I feel like, and you see a lot when, my homeboy starts a business, I feel
Don't do
like,
it.
I feel like I got to get the homeboy discount,
Come on, man.
and
Come on.
and if I don't get the homeboy discount, then I say you charging too much.
And then I'll go to Walmart
And
or
spit.
Target and spend the exact same amount of money somewhere else and
Yes.
line somebody else's pocket because I'm trying to force you to have to walk in more faith
And,
than I'm willing to walk in.
yes. And it's, it's really evident, in the African American community, because everyone thinks because you started a business, now they got to connect, now they got to link, like to get. No, this is business,
Yeah, yeah. You become the plug.
Yeah, you the plug. You the
Yeah,
plug.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And
no.
it's like, hold on, I'm building a business just like everybody else is. And why would I have to give you? And here's the problem, though. And just being honest with you, it's not limited to the African American community.
Yeah.
It happens all across the board because people think that somehow you owe them. They don't realize
Yeah.
that you're not buying 50 million T-shirts like Walmart is. That's how Walmart can sell you one at the price they
Yeah.
sell it.
They got a
You're
clearance rack. I ain't got a clearance rack.
yeah, you might be buying hundreds, instead of millions,
Mm-hmm.
and so your overhead's a little bit higher. But you know what's funny? The thing that I've learned is when you try. Remember, we talked about doing business with friends and family.
Yeah.
It's just a bad look because their familiarity with you causes them to expect too much of you.
Yeah.
And now, um, if you read the story about Ornan in the Bible, um, David went to Ornan, and Ornan said, "I'll give you this land." David said, "I want this land." He said, "I want these things to make this sacrifice with," and Ornan said, "I'll give it to you." And David said, "I will not allow you to give me something that's not going to cost me and then sacrifice it unto God." He said, "Tell me your price and I'll pay it." And by today's standards, we're probably talking about $300,000 to $400,000
Mm-hmm.
that David paid for that land to do a sacrifice unto God. And he told him, "You just tell me what it's going to cost." He didn't say, "Can I get a hookup?" He didn't say, "Can you give it to me?"
Right. You got an
He just
extra in the back. Like,
yeah, right. He just said, "You just tell me what the price is, and whatever that is, I'll pay it."
and for me personally, I almost take it as a lack of respect for what I am doing. Because if you don't respect me enough to pay full price for a product that I'm actually working, it's like, what do you have? What kind of respect do you have for me? Like, just as a friend, but not as a business person. And, I think what a lot of people don't realize who don't have businesses, for people who start businesses, that first, 6 to 12 months for first business, it's about either trying to, break even, or we're still coming in a little under. We're not really seeing no profit coming out of it. And I think that's what, when they ask you that, they're thinking you put this money in your pocket. No, this is going back into operations. This is going back into inventory. I'm not seeing none of this return yet.
Right. It's like crabs in a basket.
Yeah.
And growing up, I used to go crabbing with my dad and my grandfather and stuff. And it was one of those things where we would take chicken feet and we would tie it to a string and we would throw it in the water. And when you would drag it across the bottom of the floor, they'd grab a hold and wouldn't let go. And so when you pull them in, you would put them into a little bucket. If you only put one crab in that bucket, there is a likelihood that he can get out. You got to put another one in there. And once you have two in there, the other one will pull him down every time he tries to climb out. Wow. And sometimes people who claim to mean well, they're not trying to help you out of the basket. They're just trying to pull you back in.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're afraid the relationship will change. They're afraid. They're like, oh, you've changed. You different
money gonna
now.
change you. More money, more problems.
It's going to change me. It's going to change my phone number. It's going to change my address. It's going to change.
It might change my Facebook account. It might be disabled. And you should want for me to change.
Yes.
You shouldn't want me to stay in the same mindset, in the same actions, in the same vein that I was in before I had money, before I had business. Because if I stay in that mindset, I'm still going to be broke at the end of the day. If I'm not...
Hey, at least we can be broke together.
Yeah. We broke. We both sitting on the curb, reminiscing about the good old days. No, get some knowledge. Apply yourself. To this. And I think this goes to another segue is, I think what a lot of people, when they have new customers or when they're trying to market something, they don't know how to go about talking about the price of their product without feeling like you're overshooting them or undershooting them, or thinking if I drop it lower, I'll retain them as a customer. Like, no, honestly, if you give it lower, I'm gonna go find someone else to give it lower. I'm not gonna come back. Or if I come back and you try to charge me regular price, then it's like, well, wait, I didn't pay that last time. But now things has changed. So let's speak to how to speak about price of your product.
Yeah, there are some keys to pricing that people don't understand. Number one, with our Bible college, we charge for that, right? But we try to charge an amount that they will be paid off when they graduate, so that they don't take a bunch of school debt with them. So with Life Point Christian University, our school, we actually price it in a way that they can afford it, right? But there's still a price. And we've had people say, well, since y'all Christians, why is there a price? Because anything you don't pay for, you don't value.
You don't value.
And do you know that every student that we've ever given a full scholarship to that had to pay nothing or little, like $30, do you know all of them, literally every single one of them, did not graduate, didn't do their homework, didn't do, and so people think, well, you're charging because you're making money. No, I'm charging because you need to value it.
Yep.
And when you value it, you'll treat it accordingly. So, but here's the thing with pricing, right? You can charge too little. There are times where people are charging way too little, and that's actually costing them the sale.
Yep.
Because in the person's mind, they're like, this should cost more. And they're wondering, wait a minute, if you're so cheap, something must be wrong.
It must not be good.
Right.
Must not be this great value.
And so one of the things I've learned is people can't hold more than 3 ideas at one time. So when you are looking at pricing, you can't, I call it the Goldilocks pricing. One has to be too big, one has to be too small, and one has to be just right. And if you, and I'm telling you, people who have their business, they have their pricing on a website, let's say, and let's say they just put one price. Don't do that. Put three. Put one that's high, one that's middle, and one that's low. And I guarantee you, you will find most people will gravitate to the middle one. And the high one should be might as well. In other words, it's might as well pricing. In other words, if you say, I'm going to pay this much, then I'm going to give you what you are asking for.
Yeah.
I might as well do it. People, the pricing game is, believe it or not, psychology. And when you look at other websites and other companies, you will find that most successful companies never put more than three. It's always this one, or this one. It's either this is too big, this is too small, and this one is just right. And that just right number needs to be consistent with what it costs. If you think, well, I'm going to come in and short the market and offer these low prices, you literally, just because people have saw your price and it doesn't compute logically, they're going to walk away from you.
Yep.
And they're going to assume you're not doing a good job or you're not providing a good product because something is wrong. Pricing, I'm telling you, is extremely important to find that spot where you mitigate people who you don't want to do business with.
Yeah.
Because if you go in it with the mindset of I'm just going to offer this cheap, you're going to deal with cheap people. And cheap people
Are
are
scandalous.
more stressful. They're a pain in the Komasayama.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make you earn every bit of it. And never forget this. Whatever you do to get a client, you're going to have to do to keep the client.
And I feel
When
like,
I was,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
And I feel like
Well,
it's
when I
always the
was,
cheapest people have the most requests. I don't get
yes,
it. You have
yes,
the most requests, but paying the
yes.
littlest amount of money.
They pay the littlest amount, and they bring in the most.
The
Can you
biggest
do
headache.
this? Can you do that? I was in real estate, and I was actually a very high producer in real estate years ago. And one of the things that when people would say, "Can you cut your commission?" That'd be the question, right? Can you cut your commission? First thing I would say is no. Any other questions?
Yeah.
And they would be like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean no?" And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And do you have any other questions? And they're like, well, let's go back to that one. How come you won't do that? And I'll go, because if I can't represent my value to you, how do I represent your home value to a buyer?
Yep.
If I can't protect my own interests, how am I going to protect
Protect
yours?
yours.
So the answer is no.
Because it's like, you want to respond. It would be like, can I cut your home in half? Like, can I cut the value in half? Because obviously it may not mean nothing. And it's like, you come to me because you see or you've heard what I can produce. And you're not coming because of price. You're coming because of the ability of what I can do and at the capacity I can do it at.
Right.
So you should already come in thinking like, I'm going to pay what his work is worth,
Right.
already. If I
Right.
see, if I go to McDonald's, I know I'm pay $1 because the burger gonna be cold, my cheese ain't gonna be melted, you know. But if I,
You say half off the bun,
yeah,
half on
half
the.
off the bun, one the bottom of the bun may be burned or something. But if I go sit down at a nice restaurant and pay a little more, I
Yeah.
get better because that restaurant knows I'm coming with the mindset that I'm going to spend money so I can get my return back.
Right. Think about it this way. When it comes to business, for me, you don't pay me for my time. You pay me for access. Think about that for a second. You don't pay me for my time. You can't pay me for my time. Only person that could pay me what my time is worth is God. So you would never be able to write a check big enough to pay me for my time.
That's
You
good.
pay me for access. And to get access to me, that's what you're paying for.
Yep.
So don't sit there and go, oh, it'll only take you 20 minutes to do it. I don't care if it takes
And
me 2 seconds to do it.
because I can do it.
Yeah, you're not paying me for my time. You're paying me to have access.
To have access. And it's funny because, especially being in graphic design, and people come to you to do logos or do little business cards and stuff, this might take me 5 minutes to do, but who cares? I know how to do it. You can't do it. You need someone capable of doing it with the degree of success that you want it. So you're gonna pay that price. It's you pay for what you get. Because I remember when I first started this, I was literally making logos in Microsoft Word at work. Like, I'm taking calls at Microsoft Word, just doing stuff, making programs and stuff like that, but still charging people the high dollar. I didn't have the high equipment and the higher apps, but I had a mindset to do it, and I knew how to work with what I have to be able to produce something that still was competitive in that nature.
Let me ask you a question. What do you watch? What kind of sports do you watch?
I'm more a football player.
Okay. So, have you ever watched tennis?
A little bit.
You ever watch golf?
No.
Okay. Watching football, have you ever seen a Rolex commercial?
No. Not at all.
Have you ever seen a Rolls Royce commercial?
Nope. Not at all. Not at all.
You watching regular TV, do you ever see a Rolex commercial?
No.
You ever see Rolls Royce,
Nope.
Bentley? You want to
Nothing.
know why? Because them people ain't watching TV.
They out there working. you know, out
And,
there doing
and,
it.
and so, and I know that sounds rudimentary, right?
Yeah.
However, for the sake of what we're talking about, nobody walks into a Rolex dealership. If you buy, I do watches, right?
Yeah.
One of the businesses I have is I do high end watches. Do you realize that a stainless steel, not even gold, a stainless steel Rolex Submariner MSRP is 11 grand. So
Mm.
you go buy this stainless steel watch, it's $11,000. But you can't get it for 11,000 because they won't sell it for that. Guess what they sell it for? Around 13. Not under. You're
Over.
used to saying MSRP, it's going to be less. It's
Less,
not
yeah.
less. So you're going to pay about $2,000 to $3,000 more just to get this Rolex Submariner if you walk into a authorized dealer to buy one.
Hmm.
Nobody goes and pays more for something unless they know the value of it.
Yep.
So when I walk into not a Range Rover, a Rolls Royce dealership, I'm not in there talking about, can you cut me a deal? If you go in there and start asking what the price is, they know you're in the wrong place.
Yeah. If I'm going asking, what the down payment is, they ain't talking to me. They ain't talking. I'm not supposed to be there. Ain't no one asking about no down payment here.
Chevy dealership is next door.
The Kia
That's
over there, like, because it's like they know their audience. And that, as you were talking about with commercials, during sports and stuff like that, your main commercials right now are betting and food.
But you watch a tennis match and you will see Rolex commercials, you will see Mercedes commercials. It's a whole different. You
Whole
watch a
different.
golf game, you'll see Mercedes commercials, you'll see Rolex commercials. They understand the people they are dealing with. And if you want to be successful as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you better know what you're worth
Yep.
and stand by it and realize you cannot pay me for time. You can only pay me for access.
And it's like if you don't know your worth, someone will determine your worth for you, and I
Come on, man.
guarantee it's going to be way lower than what you think it is.
Come on now.
Because you don't know your worth, someone will do it for you. Be like, or some people be like, well, what's the price? Well, I haven't decided yet. Okay, I'll give you $5 for it. Wait, what? Well, you don't know your price, so I'm gonna give you a price, and you can't really negotiate with me because you came in not knowing your worth. So now I've overtaken the conversation, and now pretty much you're working to succeed my dream without getting nothing in return.
And be okay with saying no.
Yep.
And be perfectly okay with saying, you know what, that's not going to work for me. I wish you the best of luck. When it all falls apart and you've paid your cheap amount, give me a call so I can give you what you really needed. And now you're going to pay double because you got to pay that person to mess it up, and then you got to pay me to fix it.
And then you got to pay a rush fee because now you're on the timeline. You know, where you should have came to me in the first place. You should have came to me. You should have came to me in the first place. But I think with a lot of people, they're like, if I say no, you know, for a price because I won't go lower, I'm losing a client. No, you're losing someone who doesn't respect the value of what you have to put out.
Yeah, you're losing a headache.
Yeah. Yeah. When they want you, they know how to get a hold of you. When they get done trying all these average Joes, then it's like, this is not what I asked for. Well,
hey, running around kissing a bunch of frogs.
Pretty much. Kissing a bunch of them. And at the end, you still in the swamp. And I'm like, then you ask me, I'm like, you know what? I don't have the capacity to do it right now. You know, capacity has been my favorite word to say no to. You know, like in place of no, instead of no, I don't have the capacity, you know, of time or space to do that. You know.
And you know what price does? Price weeds out the riffraff.
Yeah.
Because when you price it at a certain point that's beyond certain people's reach, you disqualify them immediately.
Yep.
And that's what you have to do sometimes.
And you can really take shopping chains. There will always be 2 registers open at Walmart with about 7 employees standing around with the lines all the way in the back. But you go to Sprouts, all the lines are open. You know, there is no rush. Yeah, it's higher price, but they know who they're marketing to. You know, you're not coming in to look for the great value in the Kroger's. No, I'm here to buy quality product and I want a quality experience.
That's exactly right. And the statistic is that 60 to 70% of all consumers will actually pay more for a better experience.
I would. Because it's like, you know, if I go to a fine dining restaurant, I mean, the funniest story, we went to I forgot what the steak place was called. The first one was Dominic's, and they were like, "Do you want water?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then they said, "Do you want tap water? Do you want cold water? Do you want sparkling water?" And I'm like, what? Hold on, give me a second. You know, like, I just want water. Because, you know, it's like, but they're like, you're paying a price for an experience, for a value, and that's what you're going to get from us. So it's like, to me, this is a whole new world. Like, oh, you got different types of water. And then they pour the water. It was in a glass bottle. And then I knew I was, you know, up there because there was no soda on the menu. It was wine. It was wine. So you like, what can I get to drink? I'm like, you got a soda menu? No, here's our wine selections. Because you're in a different class. You know, you're going there to spend money. They're thinking if you're coming here, you're not drinking soda. You're coming to pair the wine with your steak. You know, you're coming to eat good.
And so many business people don't think of the total client experience. In other words, they think all we do is a product. No, you got to get on the other side and look at your client when they first engage with you, whether it be a website, Facebook, social media. How did that experience go? When they call you, how's that experience go? When they submit an inquiry, how does that experience go? And you've got to map out from the womb to the tomb the whole experience of a client with your organization and make sure that you are addressing all of those issues.
Yeah.
Because like you said, when you create a great experience, people will tell other people about that experience. They'll be sitting around, you know, the table at a party and be talking about what you have done and how you handled them.
Yep.
They become your mouthpiece. And now they're telling anybody who will listen
about
now,
you.
That's it. And now you're building a business with a great quality product. So many business owners, they just think building a widget is what I do. I create a product and that's the end of it. No, no matter what you are dealing with, just like you said about the car dealership, you weren't dealing with the dealership, you were dealing with the person.
Yep.
Every business will always be dealing with the person. The business is always secondary. You can't hide behind the business. They're dealing with a person. They need a face. They need to trust you. They need to deal with you. And they need to know that you care enough about them so that they are crystal clear that they know you care before they care how much you know.
Yep.
And it's got to be situated in that way so that it works where they are now like, wow, this is a great experience.
Yeah.
And now that can be duplicated through your employees because your employees got to have your head, but they also got to have your heart and they got to have your hands.
Yeah.
And as you build that type of organization, it has nowhere to go but up.
Not at all. And what I was, because me being from personal experience, I may know someone who can produce the same product that you, but do it better. But I would come back to you because my experience with you was better than my experience with them. They may create
You
a
know,
slightly better product, but I had a way better experience with you.
right. Do you know what the number one restaurant in the world is?
Chick-fil-A?
The number one best restaurant, number one in the entire world,
I don't.
McDonald's.
Really?
Yes.
I thought I just talked bad about them earlier. Dang.
But there, no, that's my point, though. That's my whole point. Number one in the world is McDonald's. You know what the number one water is? The best water in the world?
It got to be anything but Arrowhead and I forgot the other one. It got Dasani.
Here's my favorite water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Evian. I personally, this is my favorite, right? And I'm a water snob. All water don't taste the
It
same.
don't taste the same. Thank you. All water don't taste the same.
Anybody that says all water tastes the same has never had good water.
Yeah, you still
The
drinking out the
number
water
one,
hose.
no, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Number one in the world is Dasani, a Coca-Cola product. Number one in the world. Now, here's the question: is Dasani the best tasting water in the world? No, but they have the best marketing. Is McDonald's the best tasting hamburger in the world? Of course not, but they have the best marketing. People assume that because I have a great product, if you build it, they will come.
They will come.
The world will be the path to your door if you have a better mousetrap. Them is lies. I don't care if you have a better mousetrap. If I can get my product out there better than yours, I'm going to shut you down every single time.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time. Every time. And then
Every
the business you do get will almost be my leftovers because I don't have the capacity to do them all. So it's
time.
like, I
That's
can
it.
trickle down here. And as we've reached our time today, so I'm gonna ask you, what are your three top keys to a successful business that will live past your death?
Scale. In other words, understanding you can't do it all and learning how to quit your way to the top and being confident enough in your abilities to quit, to analyze everything you do and find a way for somebody else to do it. And I mean everything. Just literally quit your way to the top. Every time you find somebody else to do it, you build more sales, you find somebody else to do this, and you continue to build your organization to a place. Because here's the thing: if your business requires you to show up, you don't have a business, you have a job.
Yep.
And so the goal is to get to that place, scalability, where you're just there to deal with vision and direction and not execution. Right. So that's number one. Number two, never delegate your checkbook.
Mm.
You will have people that will be involved in the financial aspects of your business, but never give anybody complete reign over your checkbook. Um, I think number three would be to never lose sight that sales minus expenses equal revenue and profit. That's the simple formula for business. Your sales have got to exceed your revenue, or your expenses rather, in order to produce a profit. So if you lose sight of selling it versus servicing it, because a lot of businesses, a lot of business owners, they're good at what they do. So let's say, for example, I'm good at, just using your field, graphic design. I am great at graphic design. Well, that's wonderful, but we can't lose sight of designing in replacement of selling the services. We have to have way more salespeople than we do administrative people. Way more selling has to get done more than servicing the business. Because if you don't have business to serve,
Mm-hmm.
then you're sitting around with expenses. Everybody administratively is an expense. Whatever selling engine you have has to always exceed the fulfilling the product or the fulfilling the service. And so those three things, I believe, are probably the most important things.
We're gonna end it at that. Where's the offering bucket? The doors of the church are now open. But guys, I wanna thank you guys for tuning in with us tonight, with my guest, Pastor Gene Herndon. I have the link posted up here. His masterclass is coming up December 3rd and 4th.
Yes.
Yes,
And
December,
we're almost full, by the way.
almost
So
full.
if it's
Yes.
somebody, we do a lot of things for the COVID stuff and for the protection of people. So it can only be a certain amount. We have a limited number in order to meet social distancing criteria and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. So we are getting to the place where it's getting close to being full. So if people are interested, they need to get in
Get up
touch
on it.
pretty.
Get up on it.
Yep.
And I want to shout out to your employees. I believe his name is Joe. I spoke with Joe the other day. Joe was great. And the fun thing about it, I felt like when I was talking to Joe, I was talking to Pastor Gene.
Don't tell him that.
You know,
His head goes.
it's not gonna fit to the door tomorrow. I literally felt like I was talking to Pastor Gene, but just by talking to him for that short time, you could tell that he believes in the vision that you were casting and the product that you were putting out there for people. He's not just doing another sales call or talking to other people. He's talking because he believes in the product, and the person behind the product. I got to
You
return
want
this
to know
call
why?
today.
You want to know why he believes like that? He's the guy who handles if someone doesn't see value in what we do. He's the guy who actually will do your refund and give you the $200. And do you realize in 5 of these, with hundreds of people, we have never had not one person who didn't see how they could triple their business? Not one. He's seen it with his own eyes. He's seen businesses that came in and have been there 4 or 5 times.
Mhm.
They came in the first time and they literally keep coming back. And every time they get something new that takes their business to the next level. So he's literally been able to watch it because he's been with me the longest. So he's seen companies come in, just had an idea. And later on, they have their own business, their own stores, their own storefronts. I mean, he's seen it happen with his own eyes. So for him, it's not so much he believes in the vision per se, which he does,
Mhm.
um, but it's really because he's seen it firsthand with his own eyes.
Yeah, and you could tell that just by the first 2 minutes of the conversation. And what I liked about it was, we may go a little over, is the way he talked and the questions he asked. He wasn't asking to, see if you can actually get invited. He was asking to make sure that when you sit there, you're going to benefit from it. You're not
Right.
just there to hand us some money and take this class. No, he's making sure you're there and can actually retain something and your business is able to grow from it.
Yep.
And I
Because
was like,
that's so. Because here's the thing, that's my real product.
Yeah.
My real product is not the class. I'm going to give, a lot of times when people go to other people's seminars, workshops, they get you there and then they try to upsell you something that's $20,000, $30,000. It's just a step. When we get you in that room, we give everything. I mean, we pour it all out. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant. There's no upsell, there's no next level. We drop it all for in that class. And so what he's trying to do is make sure, because my product isn't the class. My product is you.
Mm.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Product
Actually
is
makes
you.
a lot of sense. Yeah.
You're my product. When people see you growing in your business, going to the next level and catapulting, you become my product. So I don't want just anybody in the room. Just because you can leave fog on a mirror doesn't mean you qualify. Just
Yeah.
because you have money doesn't mean we're going to let you in. I need people who understand that you're going to have to apply what you learn, discern what you're learning, and we give it's almost like over 250 business principles that we give in that master class in a matter of a day and a half.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And I completely agree with everything you're saying. So, guys, like you said, he has very few spots in there. I'm trying to get my spot. I'm waiting for the wife. I got to call Joe back. Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a great time. So the link is in the chat. I'm going to put it back up here. www.m4.geneherndon.com/LSM. And let me put this out there. Just because you apply, don't mean you're going to get in. You know, Joe made that very clear. You know, this ain't just for everybody. He made that very clear. You know,
Well,
because he know Dr. G knows
right.
his clientele. He knows who he wants to talk to.
You want to know what the second reason is for that?
Yeah.
Prince said it the best. Your mentor is never on your payroll. Meaning when you get in that room, you're in that room with other business people who don't want anything from you but can help you. And so one of the greatest parts about that class is we curate the people in it so that when it's over, we put you into an alumni group. It's a special group of people. It's a private Facebook group where you can ask questions. I'm in there all the time answering things, giving advice, helping people with their business, but they help each other. And so now you're not just sitting in a room with a bunch of arbitrary people.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a room with people who have been vetted that aren't going to come to you and say, "Can you give me the homie hookup?"
Yeah.
Because they don't want nothing from
Don't
you.
want it.
They will bring their supply, and there's different pieces that you might be able to bring to the table, and now y'all might end up doing business together, which likely they do. A real good source of business, but it's a pure source of business of people who understand what you're going through and who can give you kind of a peer group. Because let's be honest, entrepreneurial life is kind of lonely.
It really is. No, it guys, seriously. If you're starting a business, guys, it's not for the faint heart. And for the
Right.
first, maybe 1 to 2 years, you will be by yourself a lot. It'll be the late nights, the early mornings, especially when you have a job already. I put it like this: if I can spend 8 hours a day working for someone else's dreams, my CEO, why can I not spend, that amount of time plus more on my dream?
Yep, exactly, exactly, and that's where you now have people. We have people that'll post their wins. We have one alumni. She have received an award for an outstanding business in her city,
Mm-hmm.
and she posted it on there, and everybody's on there. Congratulations, because there's a lot of haters,
Yeah, there's a lot of haters.
right? So to be in a room with people who clap for you and know that if you win doesn't mean I lose.
I lose.
I can win and you can win and we can all win.
Yeah, we could be successful together. I ain't gotta steal off your plate. You ain't gotta steal off my plate. There's a whole meal here. Like the Bible said, the table is spread. So
That's it.
to come and be successful. So again, I want to thank you for coming on for the second time. I thought the first one was better, but this one was even better. I really appreciate it. Any last words for our community here?
just uh, to know that God needs businessmen. And do we have like a couple minutes
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
can
yeah.
share? Um, R.G. Letourneau was back in the World War I and World War II. R.G. Letourneau was the man who created most of what we see today as Caterpillar, the company that makes
Mhm.
the orange equipment. Um, he created most of those patents and designs for earth moving equipment. R.G. Letourneau went to his pastor, and he was a mechanic, and he said, I don't know what God wants me to do. He said, I don't feel like I'm called to preach. I don't feel like I'm called, to the fivefold ministry. He said, I just don't know what to do. And his pastor told him, he said, God needs businessmen. And he took that and he began to work on patents and designs and things like that. Now, R.G. Letourneau built Letourneau University, which is still in Texas as we speak.
Really?
And he built Letourneau University, and he became a reverse tither. And by a reverse tither, he lived off the 10% and he tithed the 90%.
Wow.
People have no idea that God can use you to do amazing things. But you got to be realistic and understand, just because you're a business owner, don't think that that's any less in God's eyes. Because being a business owner is important to God. Affecting the marketplace is important to God. Being able to fund the kingdom is important to God.
Yep.
And this man, think about this, to live off of 10%. And off that 10%, he was a multi-millionaire off of just the 10%. And he tithed 90% to help build the kingdom, built Letourneau University, which is still around today. That's legacy.
That is legacy. And just to top that off there, guys, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're supposed to be broke or
Come
living
on.
paycheck to paycheck. I don't know why that seems like a standard in the Christian community. God did not
Hey,
put us on this earth to be broke and living paycheck to paycheck. Learn
How,
how
how,
to
do
do
we,
your
how do we
finances.
restart this session all over again and tackle that one? Because that part right there.
We may have to do a part 3 and just 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 come back. We're gonna talk about the principles of tithing and giving, and just circle it all back. Because a lot of Christians, I don't know why people just think we supposed to be broke. No, we ain't supposed to be broke. We ain't
And it
supposed to be broke.
affects and it affects their faith for their business.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. You just said a mouthful now. I'm ready for part three.
Yeah,
Let's
we
get it.
yeah we yeah we may have to get a part 3, and we just gonna tackle finances. That's gonna be the top finances and how to do it the godly way. That,
Yes, because there
that
is a God in there.
yes, because there is a godly way to do it. Just because you're doing it in the natural, in the business realm, doesn't mean God does not get his 10%. You know from everything.
Yes.
So yeah,
And,
we gonna
and can you imagine what it would be like if we had Coco Chanel's and Louis Vuittons and Fendi's and Rolls Royces and Bentleys, and all of these companies were, headed by Christian believers. The Coca Colas, the Pepsis, the Apples, the Microsofts. Can you imagine what that looks like if the heads of all these different companies and brands were believers?
believers, and that's just at 10%. That's just at 10%. Just 10%. We can leave it at that. 10%. That's all that is right there. Just
Yep.
10%.
Amen.
Yeah. So we may have to set that up, that third part, and just go over finances because I think it's needed in today's world. For that. But again, I want to thank you for taking the time, and coming on. Every time you come on, it has been a great time. This definitely won't be your last time. Guys, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Follow Pastor Gene Herndon. Go to the website. Sign up now. There's only a few spots left. I'm telling you, what you got in the hour is just the tip of the iceberg for what's going to be going on in that day and a half, correct? Day and a half?
That's it.
Yep, day and
That's
a half. December 3rd and 4th. Guys, again, my name is Jamarcus. This is Me, Myself, and Podcast. I want to thank you for tuning in, and we talk about any and everything positive. Catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Apple, and Spotify. Take us with you wherever you go. You guys have a great night. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, brother. Love you, man.